Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, revenue sharing proposals being reported far and wide, and student athletes lining up to shake the sugar tree. Good or bad for the Red Raiders? We investigate next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And today's episode brought to you by Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. Join your friends and let the domination begin today by downloading Monopoly Go for free in the App Store or on Google Play. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Great to be back with you, Chris. Wrapping up the week, and I suppose it is appropriate that we begin the program with a mention of Monopoly, because you've got some Monopoly busting going on in the world of college sports, or maybe Monopoly avoiding, or however you want to describe it. But it was only a few days ago, I guess at the end of last week, that you and I were sitting here talking about revenue reality when it comes to the future of college sports. We had a question from the YouTube comments about whether or not this was going to be a real thing and how soon it could be implemented. And I remember at that time, you gave me an answer regarding the timeline that I was a little taken aback by, because I thought it was a little quicker than even I anticipated. And I was thinking myself that this was just right around the corner. But kicking off today's conversation with some of the reporting that you may have seen nationally throughout the week, and then we get a big bouquet of reporting, I suppose, yesterday or maybe in the last 48 hours from various sources as to what this proposal was actually going to look like. So wanted to run down some of the dollars and cents and the unintended or possibly intended consequences of some of these things and how it could pertain to Texas Tech as we head into the weekend. I know you've seen some of this stuff, Chris, but for those who have not out there, what we're talking about is essentially a new model that could result in, well, I don't know, around $300 million worth of additional cost. And I say cost, somewhat air quotes, because obviously this is revenue being generated over that time. So it's not just like a new pool you're having to dive into. This is money you're making, but you're not stashing anymore. You're sharing with some, not all, student athletes, which is another interesting portion of this conversation. But we're talking about scholarship expansion in some cases, new roster limits in some cases, and probably the most important number that's there to be digested by a fan is what a revenue sharing cap could look like. Probably a lot of you have seen the $20 million number. There was some conversation regarding something as low as maybe 15 to 17 million, and then upwards of maybe 23 to 25 million as to what it would look like each year for a university and its student athletes. Now, we've got about a month and a half, 40 to 45 days, I think, is the deadline for some of this to be implemented. And here's the kicker again, timeline-wise, could be implemented as soon as the fall of 2025. That's next year, folks. Now, that would be the soonest it could be implemented, but as we've seen some of these changes come to fruition sooner rather than later now in this post-COVID era of college sports evolution, kind of wondering why they may sit on their hands if they had the opportunity to implement it sooner. So we'll get into the big picture stuff coming up here in just a moment as far as what this could mean for the landscape at large, Chris. But this is going to require a board of presidents from conference to conference to conference to approve this. Some of the reporting does suggest that the Big Ten is maybe the furthest out front as far as being willing to approve this. But man, that is a big, big number for every university. And some of those, I mean, I would think you're looking at that number as one that may not even be tenable as far as existing in the capacity that you currently exist. A whole lot to chew on there, but what's some of what got your attention, and what do you make of those actual figures being thrown out there?
Yeah. This is why we've seen so many articles and reports about, hey, this group is getting together with a private equity firm and they want to suggest that college football, look like this in the future. And the have and the have not conversation is really just only taken on steam in recent months with the different things out there. But this is I think easily the most, or I don't know, I guess I'll say potentially the most impactful court case that involves NCAA athletics or college athletics, period. This
changing
is
the game.
I mean, absolutely. I don't really grasp it just yet on what it really means and what it what exactly are we looking at here? Because I think whenever these conversations come up, you start looking at schools going, we're going to have to cut sports. What we've been able to fund now needs to be a club sport. Who are we revenue sharing with? Who can we not? Who is, and the athletes even really want this. It's like, because you're an employee and tapping into the company funds in every sense except for, I don't think they want, the other stuff. I mean, so there's just a lot of, this is real gray for me right now, but it is. I mean, I think as I indicated last time, it's on the cusp. I mean, it's coming in some form or fashion. This is going to happen. I just don't know exactly what this looks like. And for schools because we even touched on the report out of College Station where they had removed or laid off nearly 10 to 12 employees with the thought of, we're trying to save money with revenue sharing, getting close to happening. We need to be prepared for this. We need to trim the fat, if you will. And so every school may handle it differently. I mean, I've maintained all throughout whenever this comes up for Texas Tech that and I don't think this has changed in the last year or so. But I don't think that the actual university has, and maybe, and again, if they have, then I'll stand corrected. But I don't think the university has actually helped fund anything athletically because they're almost too, most athletic departments, you try to be self-sustaining, and all those things. But as things have changed and rapidly, a lot of institutions, used to hear that Baylor would give their athletic department $10 or $15 million, just to as part of their budget, whether that's paying for coaches, paying for, a facility, or just helping operate, whatever. And a variety of schools do this, but Texas Tech is just, for whatever reason, maybe they haven't needed to, but I would expect them to, because I think President Skuvenik is. That's one of my favorite things about him is that he's at a lot of athletic stuff. He understands the importance. He's very involved there. It's the front door. Ain't nobody showing up to see a chemistry experiment. No offense.
No offense, chemists.
Yeah, that's right. You ever seen the movie The Program back in the day?
Of course.
See. Yeah, it's like, remember that little scene in there where one of the players gets in a bit of a scuffle and they suspend him, and James Caan's like the head coach, and he's in there fighting for the kid, and the little nerdy committee's up there in the front, and he's like, "With all due respect, sir, 80,000 people don't show up to see a chemistry experiment, but this is what pays the bills."
Yeah, you're referencing the documentary, I believe, The Program. You said movie, but I think you meant documentary.
Okay, yeah. It turned out to be a documentary, yeah, because everything that happened in that movie is essentially true years and years later.
And you're right about President Skuvenik. I mean, he's so boots on the ground. He was even involved in possum removal at the stadium last year. This dude is hands on.
Yeah, so I just think that if the university is in a position to help with something like this, they will be able to. Now, is this I don't know what changes every athletic department may have to make, because it's not like you can just go, hey, we all of a sudden now we're straight, we're good to go with funding all of this. I mean, so it's just a big ticket. I mean, because I heard you a second ago go like, as low as $15 to $17 million. There's nothing low about $15 to $17 million. Yeah,
that's change,
But this is also why we had seen some of these commissioners and whatnot get really, and not even apologize for it on being greedy. Like, I want a bigger cut of the college football playoff. I want a bigger cut, from a TV revenue standpoint. I want to expand the NCAA tournament because it would mean more money for whatever it may be, because they know that their schools are going to need more money just to function. And so the whole thing is, it gives me a headache. It's such a drastic change from what even we're kind of dealing with kind of now, right?
Yeah.
And you start talking about scholarship expansion and all these things. It's like, whoa. I mean, we can't even, we haven't even grown old with any of these new rules and just some of the NIL and all this stuff. And it's like, this is a drastic change, certainly on the horizon.
Well, there's the headache aspect of it as well. But I got to say, I'm like into edge of my seat aspect of it and somewhat smile on my face aspect of it, because I think this is where we're going to see some chickens come home to roost. I think is it roosters that come home to, no, chickens come home to roost as well, I believe. But so, once upon a time, and this is not really like, I'm not blaming or pointing the finger at anybody on Texas Tech's campus. If you're one of the people I'm describing, then yes, I am pointing the finger at you, but I don't remember any like notable, very high profile or public bitching and moaning from a Tech perspective, like I do remember on some other campuses a few years back, where it's all about student athlete empowerment and we want unions, we want collective bargaining. This was like some Pac-12 left coast kind of stuff. I remember there were some other examples elsewhere, but I remember some out in California really making a lot of noise about this, which, by the way, what happened to your conference? It ceased to exist. Did you have anything to do with that? I don't know. But nonetheless, just reminding everyone what the reality is, that one doesn't exist anymore. But that's where I really get the smile on my face. Like, okay, bud, here we go. Men's rowing. You wanted collective bargaining? Here you go. If you're not generating revenue, maybe you're out the door when they actually begin to, share revenue. And I know some out there be like, oh, how cruel, how tragic to have to take some of these programs to a club level. Buddy, that's the real world. So someone colliding with the real world, I'm really never going to have a problem with. And obviously, if we're talking about 18 to 22-year-olds who are supposedly on campus being prepared for the real world, I know there are many examples in these last couple of weeks contrary to what they're actually being prepared for. Armed conflict with garbage cans, anyone? But if you're supposedly being prepared for that, then why would we be mad that you're getting a taste of what the real world actually has to offer? So there's that aspect of it where I'm like, yeah, let me just sit back and watch this tire fire for some of these programs and see how they actually respond to it. When you figure out that there's basically one sport that consistently generates revenue, that is football. That's what funds everything. We've talked about it before. There are some, not many, but some men's basketball programs that do actually generate revenue. There are less than a handful, or about a handful across the country, that generate enough to actually lead their athletics department. We've run down some of those before. A Duke, a Kansas, a Syracuse, I think, were some of the examples once upon a time, and those things could be changing. But nonetheless, it's all about football. So there's this real world aspect of it that I'm kind of like, I don't know if you're familiar with the gif of the Survivor contestants where there's like two chicks and a dude behind them, and the chicks are like, oh no, at whatever they're looking at, and the dude's just like grinning like a Cheshire cat from ear to ear behind them. I'm the dude in the middle, just like, yes, let's see how this actually works out. But a bigger picture perspective, Chris, here's a question I have. First, today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and keep that ride or die ride on the road, or elevate your car's game to the next level of performance. Superchargers, exhaust kits, LED headlights, roof racks, and accessories of all kinds to fit your style. Whether it's power, speed, or design you're into, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts to perfectly fit what you need. Just head over to ebay.com/motors now, where you'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and at no risk because of eBay's guaranteed fit. your part is guaranteed to fit just right every time, or your money back, keeping you burning rubber and not burning cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to keep your ride or die on the road and moving your life forward at ebay.com/motors. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions do apply. If you're hoping for inclusion in a major category as far as football programs or athletics departments that you may now perceive to be only a power 2 kind of category, like you're fearful about this 2-conference breakaway, is this actually a good thing? So Texas Tech is in this category, so we can easily localize this, right? We're all wondering, oh, Lord, are we being left in the dust for good? Or are we going to be in the outhouse while everybody else in those other 2 conferences are going to the penthouse? And there's obviously good reason to worry about that. But when you think about, again, back to what I referenced earlier, athletics departments that can sustain this versus those who can't potentially. Well, Texas Tech is in the category easily of those who could potentially sustain this, at least in my opinion. Tell me if you agree or disagree in the YouTube comments. And so I really wonder if eventually, and this is mostly from a revenue generating sport perspective, or maybe entirely football and men's basketball, does this actually get you included in the penthouse kind of category, if that makes sense? Now, you're never going to make up a $125 million gap with the University of Texas or the Aggies or some of the bluest of the blue as far as revenue is concerned. And we've never been in that situation, so that's no skin off my back necessarily as a fan. But are you picking up what I'm putting down? If there are 45 to maybe 50, can you reach 60 athletics departments that could actually sustain this? I mean, does it generate even more motivation for them to separate in whatever form or fashion from the ones who can't? Now, again, I believe Texas Tech would be in that category, so that's why I'm somewhat motivated in a positive way to see this come to fruition and, like, call it whatever you want, a super league or whatever the hell other descriptors have been used out there. But I'm wondering if that actually speeds that train a little further down the track more quickly. And Texas Tech, I think, would have a ticket to ride. Is what I'm describing making sense? And how do you feel about that aspect of it?
Yeah, I think we have to let this marinate a bit and become more. We have to see what we're really dealing with. Not, but I do think you're in a good spot. Trust me, your leaders understand, and they understood, back in 2010. And the wheels were in motion. I mean, look, everybody's been trying to get football right. Everybody's been trying to get your facilities right. Everybody's been putting their money where their mouth is. Everybody's trying to get NIL right with the Matador Club. And I think that, you certainly get that their expansion and realignment and all these things are never really truly over. It just, this would be a much bigger version of that, kind of what you're describing, as opposed to like, what league are we going to be in, or who's going to be in our league? Hey, you want to go square dance? You can join our league.
It's like, are there leagues anymore?
Yeah, this is a bit different. What you're talking about. This is kind of like the NFL type potential, where it really, you only play your own kind of thing, and everybody else is doing it, because you're already seeing talks about, hey, the group of 5 schools may just go do their own playoff,
and they should.
Yeah, I mean, and that's yeah, and that opens up one more spot in the other playoff right now, because right now their highest ranked champion gets a spot, like Liberty and Boise State in the years past, and all the different schools that we've seen kind of share that crown or whatever. But that would potentially go away. But yeah, I think you're in a. I mean, are you in an ideal spot? No. I think anybody that suggests that you are, I think, is naive. But I do think you're the powers that be at your institution, from your regents on down, I think certainly have made plans and are trying to put you in a very, very good spot. But part of it is hard to answer this, because you just don't exactly know what you're dealing with here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We got our big time speculating caps.
It's a bit of an unknown. Yeah.
Here today. But that's a fun way to wrap up the week. All right. Before we get out of here, let's get back a little closer to home to the LBK and give the folks out there something fun to chew on as we head into the weekend. First, today's episode brought to you by Monopoly Go. And we've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime of the big game, and the scoreboard's not looking too good. You're feeling low. You're not sure you or your team are going to be able to pull out a win. And that's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, it's time to get back in the game and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. And you can do just that with the smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go. Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies and tell them all about it whenever you're kicking their butts. You can also play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball, or charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go today for free in the App Store or on Google Play. Now, we were having a conversation about season ticket sales being sold out for the second consecutive year under Joey McGuire. Was that yesterday's show, I believe?
Yes,
and it got the wheels to turning a little bit as to how we have actually seen something that has long been on the wish list for Texas Tech football. When we've talked about how do you revitalize your program, one of those things that I think was potentially number one on the list, at least for me in some instances it has been, get back to revitalizing what you're doing on your home field. And obviously when you're going to have a full house to watch something, you're hoping that they're watching something that they're enjoying, like you scoring more points than the other guys. And Chris, I know you were thinking about just exactly how, in a lot of ways, you have done that under Joey McGuire. That is one of those boxes that has been or is close to being checked off, a Jones Stadium revival of sorts.
I don't know if it was explicitly stated whenever they're sitting down to interview like Joey McGuire back a couple of years ago, but we all knew kind of some of the main hangups with previous regimes. Not being able to recruit well enough, and I think one of the things at the top of the list is like, man, our fans aren't really having any fun. Why are they not having fun? Because when they show up at their home stadium to see their team play, it doesn't often work out, and they leave. Yeah, they leave a little bit frustrated.
We're getting smacked.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Layeth the smacketh down, and so I think that, and if you can just, and this is why I know Joey certainly understands, and Chris Beard would talk about this too whenever he took over. It's like winning your home games. This is the recipe that we must do if we want to get to where we want to go. And Joey, really, I think, you think about administratively or create, like with the social media content they put out and just everything, there's a lot of emphasis placed on the stadium, these home games, and all those things. But I don't think people realize like how different Joey has been at home in just his 2 years compared to his predecessors, which is why he's here. Okay. And why there was several predecessors in the last 10 to 12 years, Tommy Tuberville, 10-8 at home. Cliff Kingsbury, 18-8 at home. Matt Wells, 9-7 at home. Joey McGuire, 10-3. And I think what's also interesting is that, because Joey's first year he went 6-1 at home. You could do that or better this year. You really could, and you probably are going to be favored in every one of your home games this year. I mean, depending on injury situation and all those things, but there's really not. I mean, is Baylor going to come in here favored over you after the year that they had last year? Wouldn't think so. Is Colorado going to come in here, even with all the hype and all that, going to be favored over you after the year that they had last year? Wouldn't think so. I don't care how good or what a kind of a pick Shedeur Sanders is supposed to be. Is West Virginia going to come in on Thanksgiving weekend after the year that they had last year? Maybe, but that's about where we end. I mean, Arizona State and Cincinnati certainly aren't, so you could be favored in all your home games. I think you're staring at a potential 6-1, 7-0, conference record. And if you do these things, this is where you have a chance to have really fun seasons, because if you do that When a couple on the road, it's like, whew, okay. Now we're in the 8-9 win category, and this has like not really been space that we've been living in lately. But I think Joey has done a phenomenal job of and this is why the administration has said, and you've seen all these these scheduling articles and things like that about our wish going forward is to play 7 home games a year.
Yeah.
It's a revenue, and it's just like we're going to put our fans in the middle of this fancy new facility that we've spent an enormous amount of money building and erecting and all those things. But I think Joey, because he puts a 6-1 or 7-0 record there. Look at what his total home record would be. And can you name the 3 games that he's lost at home?
Well, Oregon, and I'm thinking about a 4th down call just immediately when we're talking about those 3. Oregon, and then that's the one that's hurt me the most, I think. So that's what else we got on the list?
Pat Mahomes was being honored in year 1, and it was a night game, and Baylor showed up.
Oh, that was a deep wound. I think I've just had heal, and now it's just that one was rough too.
And Baylor looked like the best team in the conference at that time, and they were picked to win it. Remember?
I forget about that.
Yeah, and then they would and then last year we had a bit of a hiccup with our quarterback injury, and then Jake Strong had to finish out the game, and then Kansas State was like, you know what? Hey, let's go to the Avery Johnson package. Hey, he's just going to stand here, take about 3 seconds, and he's just going to run.
Bring in the guy that rushes for 300.
Yeah. So your quarterback went down, and they inserted their one that nobody had seen yet, and Kansas State beat you last year. Kansas State always beats you, it seems like, but those are the only 3 home losses. Now he's got a chance to really pad that this year. But I think that's one of the things he's fixed. And I think if you go 6-1, 7-0, whatever it is this year, because I think it's fair to say if you go 5-2 at home this year, that's a massive disappointment. Based on what that looks like on paper. Now, I reserve the right to change that if you're dealing with, okay, we got another true freshman at quarterback starting all these games or whatever,
Right.
So there's a caveat there, but you get what I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. How about one more fun thing to chew on as we head into the weekend? I only bring this up as an example of what freaking lunatics we are in the 806 and all across Red Raider Nation. Have you guys been keeping up with Panda Watch? Oh, hell. Wrong note card. My bad. 3-Stripe Watch. Because there was a bit of a red alert, don't pardon that pun, yesterday in West Texas. I don't even know what this means, but I know that the fans were in a frenzy if you're paying attention to such things. It was like when Michael Scott saying, it's happening, and we're running out of the office. We don't even know what's happening, but we're running in circles all of a sudden in a parking lot beating the drum. Why? Because Kellen Buffington of Texas Tech men's basketball tweeted this shot, which I'm showing to the folks on YouTube. If you're watching on podcast, it is a very humble, very simple picture of a pair of Adidas shoes. 3-Stripe Watch. This is a big, big alert. I don't even know what these are. I don't know why he sent out the picture. Maybe his kids just left a pair laying around somewhere at the facility at the Wobble. But either way, this was generating a new thread on RedRaidersports.com. This was generating Twitter traffic. This was generating massive emoji usage. I mean, this was driving the folks crazy. And it's just part of what I love about being a college sports fan, Chris. I don't even know if we know what we were excited about yesterday, but the folks were excited. Were you feeling the fever personally?
I mean, this is what people are into, man. I mean, it's and this is going to be the first of many different wide eye emoji type reactions you're going to get with Adidas and gear, and it's fun, and people are into it right now. But in Buff's world, he's worked with all these shoe companies with these tournaments that he helped run in the Metroplex, and obviously even expands out past the Metroplex and all that. He understands how much of an impact this kind of thing has with the recruiting process and just the getting into certain conversations in general. I don't know if these are, because I'll tell you what some of the conversations that have taken place were, because you used to just wear a lot of Steph Curry shoes. That was the lead athlete for Under Armour for basketball. And so you had about every color and different kind of Steph Curry shoe that, imaginable at your disposal. Adidas is got a different, athletes, that have signed with them. You hear that Trae Young is going to become, have a shoe for Adidas. And I think, Rayford, his dad, has kind of tried to man, I'd like for Texas Tech to wear these. And so there's some synergy there. Whatever happens there. And are those Trae Youngs? I can't speak to that.
I thought I saw somebody saying these are Donovan Mitchell shoes.
Okay.
I could be so off base. I don't know.
Donovan Mitchell is an Adidas guy. I think that there's Anthony Edwards is also for the Timberwolves, who's kind of like this next, great player kind of thing that they're rolling right now. He's an Adidas guy.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what all that's going to look for you. But I mean, I would guess that, Buff will be at the forefront of those conversations. And I'm guessing the players have some say so, and because typically what somebody like Grant McCaslam would go to and be like, fellas, what do y'all like? What do you want to wear? What feels good? And they may end up with and Pat Mahomes may go, hey guys, at the corporate office, give them a bit of everything. Let them pick what they want. Let them have. We don't have to single it out. Let them have a bit of everything, which is, I'm guessing, maybe closer to what really happens than not. But the whole thing's fascinating. But the basketball shoe is that's a big deal for basketball players and all those things that what you're wearing out there.
I loved it, man.
Yeah.
In another era, they would lock us up in a padded room, but in this era, we're just college sports fans, and it's great to be a part of that category with all you freaks and weirdos and insane people out there. Thanks for joining us on the regular on Locked On Texas Tech. Chris, appreciate your time as always. Enjoyed it all week, man, and we'll see you on the other side of the weekend.
Hey man, sounds good. Hopefully everybody enjoys the weekend and stay dry. A little precip in the area. So but yeah, that's right. We need it. But unless you're a golfer, which that might suck. But anyway, hope everybody has a great weekend. We'll do it again next week, and appreciate the time. And thank you for subscribing and doing what we being a part of what we do here at Locked On Texas Tech, man.
That's right. And if you're not subscribed, get that way so you miss nothing. You never know when something's going to be hitting the scene. So get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And the best way to help us grow the show is to comment anything below. So get in there and mix it up on the YouTube comments whenever you have the opportunity. We appreciate you being there and hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.